Hello there fellow model makers and welcome to the first part of my Kitty Hawk 1/35th scale HH-60G Pave Hawk build. A wonderfully detailed kit that was a joy to build and well worth its rather steep price tag. Let's get on with checking out the kit. As with most Kitty Hawk kits, the artwork is very nice. The box itself appears sturdy enough to take a hit or two and still keep the contents safe. There are two color and marking options, and for the longest time I was tempted to go with the green camo scheme. But in the end I chickened out and went with the more conventional grey. By the way, this is a pretty expensive kit. In Singapore, its listed price is about 190 Singapore dollars, which I believe currently is about 140 USD or 125 euros or thereabouts. Luckily, I got the kit on sale, so much cheaper, but still over 100 Singapore dollars. There is plenty of plastic in this kit, and I was a little taken aback by the size. It's huge. Let's take a closer look. The fuselage is in two halves, which in a kit this size is always a tricky thing when it comes to lining them up. The surface detailing is brilliant. There are both recessed features like rivets and panel lines, as well as raised details. The details appear to be in scale and are evenly recessed around the corners as well. It appears that they will take a wash nicely. So I just tried to line up the two halves and it proves to be a little difficult. Anyway, I will cross that bridge when I get to it. The first impression on the plastic is that it appears to be a little bendy or flexible, almost like part rubber. I have made Kitty Hawk's kits earlier, but I don't think I have come across plastic like this. There is a box with clear parts inside. I really like this level of care by manufacturers, especially while packing clear parts. The clear parts themselves are nicely molded. The plastic is crisp and clear. I cannot see any obvious distortions. Also, the window frames seem to have a lot of detail on them. Really nice and impressive. Right, here is another goodie packet. This one with two pilot figures. The two figures appear to be plastic, but they are very nicely detailed and have sharp and proportional facial features. Their clothes, however, could have been a little more detailed, but still, never say no to free stuff. Let's now take a look at a few of the sprues. Right, the detailing on this kit is really nice. The designers of the kit have tried to capture as much detail as possible. There is some tiny bit of flash here and there, but nothing really to worry about. This sprue has the cabin floor on it, and you can see how nicely detailed it is. Right, now I will shut up and you can check out the remaining sprues. The kit also comes with this photo etch plate. To be honest, the only thing of any use on the plate were the tiny bits and bobs that went at random places on the kit. The pilot belts and harnesses were not used because I used the figures. I tried using the gun belts for the machine guns, but they just could not be used. So yeah, it's a nice addition but not really that useful. And here is the decal sheet. The decals were very nice and soft and conformed to the surface very nicely. If anything, the glue on them was a little too aggressive and they would get fixed in place in seconds, and then moving them about to their proper position proved to be a little difficult. Also, being really soft, they fold over easily, and getting them to straighten back out was a little tricky. The cockpit instrument panels also get decals of their own, but for some reason there are no decals for the overhead instrument panel. Right then, the instructions. Let me just say, what a letdown. Now I have made enough kits to know that many instructions have that odd mislabeled part or that poorly illustrated diagram. But these instructions are on a different level of bad. If you follow them, you can easily ruin your entire kit. Almost half the things are incorrectly labeled. Several sub-assemblies have no instructions at all, and you're forced to improvise and just use your imagination. And also, many steps are in the incorrect order. So please be very careful while using these instructions. Check and double check and then check again, because the instructions are most likely wrong. For a $100 plus kit, for me, this is just unacceptable. Anyway, enough of that. Here are the two available color schemes. The paint scheme sheet is stapled to the instruction booklet, so I will just remove it. The green scheme looked very nice, and I was conflicted for the longest time about which scheme to go with. In the end, I went with the more common grey. Right, let's get on with the build. The first thing that we will make are the seats for the crew. As you can see, the parts are really nicely detailed, but there are several ejection pin marks on them. Since I was not sure whether these would show or not, I decided to play it safe and fill the marks with putty. Later, when the kit was complete, I realized that these marks were not really visible. Once dry, the putty was sanded down to a smooth finish. I now glue the parts together. The instructions show that I should glue the seat legs on now, but I would advise against doing that. The top of the seats are hooked to the roof of the cabin, and the legs are bolted to the floor. There is no way to tell at what angle the legs should be glued on at this point, so best leave them off till later. Time now to glue the parts to the roof of the cabin. I now put together the side walls. I now spray on a black primer on all the parts. This is something best done outside, so I did it off camera. The instructions state the cabin roof should be black, but when I looked at some pictures on the internet, I found that the roof actually is basically grey, with some panels painted brown and some others painted green. I will just mask off the deepest part of the roof and keep those black. The rest will be painted. I will be using Mr. Color 308 for the interior grey. I spray a mottled or marbled pattern for the first layer to get some tonal variation in the paint job. The second coat is a light misty coat of the same paint to blend the effect. The same is done with all the parts to be painted grey. I next mask off a few panels on the roof which will be painted green and brown, just to break up the monotony of the grey inside. I like the overall look of the roof once the masking is removed. I had initially thought of painting the canvas on the seats green, but then looking at some pictures, I realized that the seats were almost always light grey blue, so I repainted the seat canvas. With all the parts painted, I dry brushed some white on the overhead instrument panel. This will help buttons and knobs to stand out. I next picked out some of the more prominent details with white paint. Lastly, everything was given a couple of coats of gloss varnish to seal the working. Right then, fellow model makers, that is all for this part of the build. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you press the bell icon to keep informed about the next editions of the build. Till next time, stay safe, good luck and happy model making.